Over the last few years, World Rugby has really been pushing this idea that head contact within our sport is extremely dangerous. Now, don't get me wrong, I really do agree with them on this, but I think at this point they've gone too far. You know, when even egg chasers starts making videos about rugby officiating, you just know something is not right. By the way, do go watch that video. I think he does a great job at explaining why this red card decision was absolutely insane, and I'll be further emphasizing some of the things that he said in that video. With that being said, I think that there were a lot of other decisions that were also made during this match that make absolutely no sense. So I'm going to be making a few videos highlighting key aspects of the rugby refereeing which were horribly implemented within this match. In this video, I will be focusing on the cards that were given out, both the red and the 2 yellow cards. And I'm also going to be pointing out where I think some other yellow cards should have been given as well, based on the referee's own decision making. Now, with all of that said, let's take a look at the cards that were given during this match. The first and most controversial one, obviously, is the red card given to Mostert at time 11:23 during the match. Now, the first replay they show is this one, where you can clearly see how much lower Mostert is compared to the Italy player before the tackle is made. When you continue the replay, you can see that it looks like Mostert's arm is being blocked by at least the Italy player, but potentially also his teammate at this point. This is going to be an important detail later on. From the second replay that they show, you can clearly see the events taking place during this tackle. Mostert goes low for the tackle. His knees are bent, he looks at where the player is, and then he commits for the tackle. At the point where he commits for the tackle, Ethan Hooker, the other South African player tackling the Italy player, hasn't tackled him yet. As you can see, the 2 South African players basically tackle the Italy player at the same time. The Italy player sees that he's going to get double tackled, and he braces for impact. The combination of this brace, where he bends his knees, puts up his arms to brace for the impact, as well as the South African player tackling him, lowers his height dramatically by the point that he reaches Mostert. You can also see from this frame that Mostert is still lower than the Italy player by the time he has committed for the tackle and is looking down and cannot adjust his height anymore. From the next replay, you can also clearly see that the combined effect of the Italy player bracing for impact by bending his knees and the South African player tackling him, he has dramatically dropped height. However, Mostert is still lower than the Italy player at this point in time. In this frame, you can clearly see that it is shoulder-on-shoulder contact. There is zero head contact at this point in time. Yes, there is going to be some indirect head contact, but that's simply going to be by the Italy player falling and his head sliding down Mostert's arm. This frame alone clearly shows that there's no head contact and that a permanent red card shouldn't even be considered at all. From this angle, you can see the dramatic change in height. He's committing for the tackle. Look how much lower he is than player 10. Then there's a dramatic shift after he's tackled. Firstly, how do you want this guy to go any lower than he already is? Secondly, how do you want this guy to react so quickly in order to avoid an accidental collision like this? This isn't even penalty worthy. This should just be play on. Okay, but let's see what the referee says.
So there's head contact?
Here the referee asks, so there's head contact, which there was, but it was indirect.
Now we want to confirm whether or not there is a clear wrapping action.
Now they want to confirm if there's a clear wrap. Okay, remember what I said earlier? His arm was being blocked by both his teammate and this player, which means that he couldn't wrap.
For me, Ben, it's whether or not it reaches permanent red card threshold for me.
This is ridiculous from the ref.
Because at this stage we don't have a clear wrap, do we? Yeah. You don't have a clear wrap?
As we established earlier, there clearly was no wrap with his right arm. However, I think it is also clear that this was the result of both having an unexpected teammate tackling the same player on his right and the dramatic drop in height from the Italy player, which shifted the point at which he expected to tackle the player, meaning that now the Italy player's head and shoulders were in the way of him wrapping, whereas if there were no drop in height, his shoulder would have impacted the Italy player's stomach and he would have been able to wrap. Okay, after watching a few replays, the Team O says he doesn't see a clear wrap, as we've already established, and then the referee's going to go on to explain his decision.
Okay, Terrell, back to me and I'll explain this. You agree with this outcome? Agree with this outcome? Okay. Guys, what we had to determine in there, whether or not there was clear head contact. The TMO has confirmed that there is clear head contact.
There's definitely no head contact at all. But okay, that's the first condition. We'll keep you to this, referee.
The TMO also, along with us, has confirmed that it's an always illegal action because number 5 does not attempt to wrap. His arm is behind him. Therefore, we don't apply any mitigation. Okay? We acknowledge that there is another tackler. It doesn't apply to an always illegal action. It's going to be a permanent red card.
Now this is the really confusing part to me. The referee says that it's an always illegal action because there was no attempt to wrap. They also say that the fact that there's another player does not affect an always illegal action. However, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. Because if the other tackler is in the way of him being able to wrap, then that clearly does have an impact on the always illegal action, doesn't it? You know, it's just insane to me how World Rugby has kind of put referees into such a corner where it feels like they can't even use their logic in order to reason through an incident like this. What the referee is saying here doesn't make any sense, and it feels like he's making things up that are clearly not visible on the replays. But, you know, if this is how the referee wants to justify giving out a red card, then all we want as rugby supporters is for this referee to consistently be applying his own rules in the same match. What we are going to do now is we're going to be looking at some other incidents that also happened during this match, and we will look at them according to these rules that the referee has just made up, and we will see how consistently the referee actually applied his own logic. With this, I also just have one question for World Rugby. If the referee deems this to be head contact, why didn't we see the Italy player go off for a head injury assessment? Throughout this match, we've seen a lot of players go off for head injury assessments. And in every single case, we don't even know why they've been sent off. So what I want to know is why Italy player number 10 wasn't sent off for a head injury assessment immediately here, and that we actually saw it happening. Also, World Rugby, could you please show us in the future if a player is going off for a head injury assessment, what the actual reason for it is? Because at this point, it just seems like players are going off for head injury assessments for nothing. Also, if a player has to go off for a head injury assessment, doesn't that mean that he got a direct hit to the head? If that is the case, the referee should actually be looking at the replay and deciding whether there was foul play involved and whether a yellow card or a red card should be given. It is just insane to me how you have all of this player safety in mind, but then we don't even get to see why you take them off, we just need to trust you. Well, this red card just shows why we shouldn't trust you. Okay, let's go all the way back to minute 7. Look at this tackle. The Italy players are both upright. South African player goes down low, okay, and is being tackled upright. This is asking for head contact and a yellow card. Nothing comes of it, the ref leaves it, and then we get shown a replay. You can see 7 is first of all doing a high tackle. 3 here is also doing a high tackle, but his is much worse, right? Because he doesn't actually wrap. And there's actually more clear head contact here than before. Look at player number 3 here. His shoulder goes in between South African player's head and shoulder. That's clear head contact with the shoulder. The second condition was that it's an always legal action because there's no wrap. This player's arm is over here. Does this look like a wrap to anyone? Because it definitely doesn't look like a wrap to me. Yes, I agree. His arm is being blocked by this player, but that wasn't considered in the Franco Mostert incident. So this, to me, is a much worse tackle than what we just saw given a permanent red, and the referee calls this to be a play on. How can you allow a tackle like this, but then give a red card for another tackle that wasn't even close to as dangerous as this one? It's absolutely ridiculous. I rewatched this now, and you know, it's just absolutely crazy to me. This tackle doesn't even get looked at by the referee. I just don't understand. The game continues and we get to minute 51. Now at this point, Italy makes a break there, gets tackled. Number 8 is clearly off feet trying to jackal the ball. Right, they get penalty advantage and then the ref decides that's a yellow card. This yellow card is just ridiculous. What is this yellow card for? Usually what happens here, you get a yellow card because you have been repeatedly offending close to the try line, right? But what has happened up until now, if we go back a little bit, right, Italy has a line out here, right? South Africa get the ball from a knock-on from Italy. South Africa has done nothing wrong so far. Okay, they do a kick. It's another line out. Another line out here. Right, South African players get the ball again. They've done nothing wrong so far. Okay, they kick the ball out again. It's another line out. Okay, South African players do nothing wrong because there's no advantage given during this whole maul. Okay, Italy players play 2 phases and then the incident happens. Please explain to me what this yellow card is for. It makes absolutely zero sense, and I haven't seen anyone talking about this because this is just as bad as the red card given during this game. Okay, let's hear what the commentators say on this.
The referee very clear that Van Staden was the one who made the infringement and stopped really what was a try-scoring opportunity.
Referee there says he's clearly off his feet. Yeah, which is true. But that's just a penalty offense. That's not a yellow card offense. Listen to there what the commentator says. He says he stopped what is really a try-scoring opportunity. If that is what the yellow card is for, then that should be a penalty try as well, first of all. Second of all, I don't really think that is the case. We're going to keep them to this standard a bit later in the video as well. Okay, but let's take a look at the actual replay that they show. So here, we see 8 comes into the ruck. Right from the tackle, is clearly off feet. Italy player falls onto the South African player. How is this allowed? First of all, World Rugby, right? He's supposed to come in and clean out the player, not just fall on top of him. The Italy player falling on top of him makes this whole incident even worse. Then you can see he clearly tries to stand up, right? He's trying to regain his position on feet. He doesn't even touch the ball, right? He tries to get out of the way, but he gets cleaned out. How absolutely ridiculous is it? If we look from this angle, you can see the same thing, right? Clearly he's off feet, okay? Italy player falls on top of him, and then they don't show what happens after that. Please help me understand this. This yellow card, there's no reason to give a yellow card here. Penalty at most. Let's skip to minute 55, 59, okay? Look at the position of the Italy players. They've been tackling like this the whole match. South African player goes in. There's clear head contact. No attempt to wrap in the tackle. And play continues. So both of the referees' conditions here have been satisfied for a permanent red card. And this is clearly much worse than the Mostert incident, which did get a red card. World Rugby, how is this inconsistency allowed? Let's hear what the referee has to say about this.
I see contact there. Yeah. So yellow card upright reaches our yellow card threshold. Yes. It's a legal tackle. Yeah. Okay.
Now we all know how this works. If it's a South African player tackling an Italy player slightly higher than he expected to, it is going to be a red card. However, if an Italy player tackles a South African player standing completely upright, having more head contact than the red card, and not even attempting to wrap, it is simply going to be a yellow card. To anyone with any logic, that makes no sense. Also notice how quickly they decided on this yellow card, because they knew if they looked at it any longer, they would have to give a red card in order to be consistent. It's absolutely insane. I don't know why this is allowed and why the ref has no consequences for this. All right, let's go to minute 57. South Africa have the ball. They're going for a try. They make a break. This player comes from the side, hands on ball within a ruck. This is violating several rugby laws. This is an always illegal action. Okay, there's no head contact in this case, so this should be a yellow card, right? He is slowing down the play. He's stopping what is arguably a try-scoring opportunity. Why isn't this a yellow card like this yellow card given over here? At this point, you can already see the referee has put himself into such a small corner because he's given cards for ridiculous things that happen so often in the game and which doesn't even come close to a yellow card threshold. But then you look at things like this and he doesn't give a yellow card, because if he does give a yellow card for every time this happens, there would be 2 players on the field throughout the game. World Rugby, this is ridiculous and we need to fix this. All right, the referee gives a penalty here and then we see this clean out. Right, or this player coming in to protect the ball within the ruck. This head contact here is much more direct and clear than the Mostert incident, which got a red card. But what does the ref say to this?
Clear. I agree. So I'm at no foul play here because of the dynamic nature of this tackle. He's wrapping. There's not more anything he can do. No. Yeah, so nothing. Agreed. Nothing.
Because of the dynamic nature of this tackle, there is no foul play. How is this all of a sudden being allowed to be play on when the Franco Mostert incident was a red card? As you can see here, the referee has boxed himself into such a tight corner, he was supposed to give 2 yellow cards according to his own rules within a minute from each other. But he doesn't, because he knows if he has to do that, he's going to have to send all of the players off the field. World Rugby, can we please fix the card situation? It is getting ridiculous. I'm going to keep you guys to this standard because this is necessary. You can't have inconsistencies like this. Alright, the last incident I want to look at is in minute 76 here.
I'm going to look to put an exclamation mark on the performance, and almost Moody there, and it's a big tackle.
Did you guys see that tackle? Tell me this isn't exactly the same tackle as what Mostert did. This could be considered to be more head contact than what Mostert had. How is this not at least a yellow card or a red card? Now, understand me clearly, please. I'm not suggesting that this should be a card or even a penalty. I think this shouldn't be anything. It should be play on. The referee made the correct decision here to just play on. But if this is going to be allowed to play on, then why did Mostert get a red card? The inconsistency is ridiculous, and it doesn't make any sense. World Rugby, please fix this nonsense. The referees have no accountability for the decisions they make on the field. We need to give some accountability. Alright, what we looked at here was just a few incidents that I thought were all just officiated inconsistently. Referee, if you're going to have the standard clear head contact and no wrap is a permanent red card threshold, then there should be so many other permanent red cards that should have also been given within this match. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if you disagree with me on anything, and I hope we can create some positive conversation around this so that we can get World Rugby to fix this nonsense.